YUNGBLUD is fresh off his Ozzy tribute at the VMAs, and Ozzy Osbourne fans are absolutely losing their minds at the comparisons between YUNGBLUD and the Prince of Darkness. Let's take a look at a couple of comments. This one saying, quote, "He's just a wannabe that's trying too hard to be like Ozzy." This one says he couldn't carry Ozzy's lunch pail. While another fan says, in a couple years you won't hear anything about him. He's having his 15 minutes of fame because he was at Ozzy's funeral. Now, the negative comments just keep going and going. Now, this pisses me off for so many reasons, and I'm going to try to unpack it without absolutely losing my mind. The first reason this drives me crazy is the fact that we are looking right now from this tribute that YUNGBLUD did, which I just watched, by the way. It was absolutely fantastic on the VMAs. We are looking at major large-scale exposure of rock and metal to the mainstream audience. One of the main complaints I've heard from people for decades now about award shows is the fact that there's no rock representation. There's no heavy metal. Enough with all this pop. Enough with all this hip-hop. Play some rock and roll. That's what people always say in the comments. Well, now you guys just got an 8-minute tribute to Ozzy Osbourne. YUNGBLUD at the forefront of it, having the VMAs dedicate 8 minutes of airtime in a 2-hour show to not only Ozzy Osbourne, but the overall world of rock and metal. And what do you guys do as a thank you to him? You bitch and moan and complain. I will never understand this about rock and metal fans, because here's the thing about rock and metal fans, as much as I love you guys, it's never enough for you guys. There's always some kind of complaint. There's always some kind of criticism. One day it's we need metal on the award show, but then when we get metal on the award show, well, I don't like the way they did it. Well, tough shit, okay? We're lucky to even get any representation on this music, which came out in the 80s and 90s. We should be happy it's even on the airwaves. So that's my first thing. Now, my second thing is the fact that people are trying to somehow question the fact that YUNGBLUD is a metal fan, question the fact that he's a true Ozzy fan, mostly due to the fact that he's young. And I will preface this by saying I am certainly biased when it comes to this issue, because it's something that I've actually faced myself for a number of years. I faced the exact same thing. People in my comments have told me I'm just trying to cash in off of Ozzy's death. I'm just looking for likes and clicks. I don't know anything about Ozzy or metal. When in my case, not only do I know about Ozzy and metal, and I grew up on this music just like you guys did, but I actually know Ozzy's bandmates, okay? I've actually sat down and had the conversations with Zakk Wylde. I actually know Rudy Sarzo, okay? I know these dudes more than the guys who grew up with this music personally. These people criticizing YUNGBLUD and saying he's not metal. Have you done a duet with Steven Tyler? Were you a close family friend of the Osbournes? Are you friends with Lenny Kravitz? Like, you tell me what you've done in the world of rock and metal, first of all, to be able to criticize anybody, but to be able to criticize one of the people who was at the forefront of the space. And I want to roll this clip of YUNGBLUD just for 2 seconds speaking on Ozzy. Listen to this clip and we'll let it speak for itself.
Without knowing it, 4 guys from Birmingham with Ozzy at the front of it created a whole genre that I don't know, your favorite 50 artists spawned from. And then for him to go from Sabbath, change the world, and then go and change the world again with Ozzy and bring this kind of commercial sensibility to rock music and metal with Randy and then Zakk Wylde. Just like as a 10-year-old in the north of England who just looks like this, I'm like this. Like I was watching, you know what I mean? I studied that, man.
So I think that clip right there is incredibly revealing and incredibly telling, because you can't fake that level of passion, okay? You can see it in this dude's eyes, the fact that he lights up when he speaks about Ozzy. Not only that, but he knows his history about Sabbath. This dude has done his homework, and he's earned his place, in my opinion, in the world of rock and metal. Now, the fact that somebody would try to downplay that just because he's young, this seriously pisses me off, because you guys don't seem to realize that we have the internet, okay? That's the one advantage that my generation has over your generation, is the fact that we have access to everything. So the concept of, how could you know anything about this because you didn't grow up in it? We probably know more about it than you, because we have the access to every nook and cranny of this space. And generation and time span and what year it came out is completely irrelevant in my generation. I could be the biggest fan of film noir, and I could know more about film noir from the fucking 1940s than the dudes who were in it, because they didn't have access to as many movies as I do. I have access to all the movies. I have access to all the music. We have access to everything that you guys didn't have. I didn't grow up in the era where I had 2 records on my record player and I had to just listen to that and I couldn't find anything else. I have access to everything. So the fact that people are trying to downplay this guy or make it seem like he doesn't know what he's talking about or whatever the case may be is absolutely ridiculous. Now, when it comes to the comparisons between him and Ozzy Osbourne, this is the area where I can kind of understand a little bit of backlash, but again, not to the level where it's coming from. The one comment that I agree with in all of these comment sections is the fact that there's only one Ozzy Osbourne. But I think the first person who would tell you this would be YUNGBLUD. So the idea that he's trying to become the new Ozzy Osbourne, I don't necessarily think that's the case. I feel like it's more of a situation where he's being pushed into that frame and he's not going to deny it because he probably likes it. Again, it's not something that he's going to be against if he grew up loving Ozzy Osbourne and wanting to be in the music space. YUNGBLUD has said in interviews Ozzy was his North Star. Ozzy was the guy that he saw himself in this business more than anybody else. So if you're coming up and you're being compared to that guy, it actually makes perfect sense why you would sort of lean into that and humbly accept it. And I do think YUNGBLUD is humbly accepting it. The people saying that he's some sort of pop star or he doesn't deserve the comparisons, again, absolutely ludicrous. When you listen to his version of Changes, and I'm not even a YUNGBLUD fan per se. Like, I like what he's doing. It's not like I'm coming into this with a bias towards YUNGBLUD. I don't really know his stuff that well. I'm now curious to actually get to know his stuff because of all of this. But when you listen to the caliber of musicianship that this guy is delivering, it's incredibly insulting to try to brush him off as a pop star. And here's my question ultimately to all the rock and metal fans who are doing this crap. Do you guys not understand and realize that Ozzy Osbourne, God bless his soul, Ozzy Osbourne has passed away. Ozzy is no longer with us and he's not coming back. The genre of rock and metal, the icons in this space, are in their 70s and 80s. They're not getting any younger. Unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say this, the only thing that's going to happen from here is we're going to lose more legends and we're going to lose more icons. And sadly, if we don't have people to pick up the torch to keep this thing going, this genre very soon will die. The genre of heavy metal as we know it when we're talking about the classics, when we're talking about rock and metal in the vein of AC/DC or Iron Maiden or all the, Kiss even, all these bands in rock and metal that really started this, we're only going downhill from here. We're not going uphill. This thing is ending, and it's ending before our eyes. Now, my question for you is this. Do you want this to die with Ozzy Osbourne? Do you want this to die with these dudes, or do you want this to continue? Because based on the attitudes that I'm reading online, you guys don't want this to continue. You guys want to let this thing die. And from where I'm sitting, as somebody who loves heavy metal with a passion, who loves rock and roll music, who loves rock and roll culture, the whole idea of rock, I don't want to let this thing die. And the same people who are discouraging the next up-and-coming dudes are the same dudes who are discouraging me. You guys have no clue how many people tell me, Cassius, you got to get out of rock and metal. You got to get out of rock and metal for your content. It's too niche. You're never going to blow up doing rock and metal. All this yada, yada, yada. They tell me all these things every day, but I refuse to stop covering rock and metal because I refuse to let this thing die. If this thing dies, it's going to die when I die. Because I'm going to keep carrying the torch for this thing until I'm in the fucking ground. So the idea that a young guy doesn't know anything or the young dudes don't have any room to speak on this, I would actually be willing to say it's the opposite. I would be willing to say, folks, that this is our shit now. This is our culture now. This is our music now. Because if we let it keep going the way it's going, this music dies with Ozzy Osbourne. And I don't think you guys really want that. See, now that I'm saying it, I feel like it's clicking. Even through the screen on this recording, I know it's clicking. Because you're probably thinking of it in a different way now. You probably haven't considered it that way. But the choice is yours. You can keep discouraging us young dudes and telling us we don't know anything and telling us we don't have any room in this space and let the music die. Or you can let us pick up the torch and keep running with it, because I'll tell you guys what. There's a lot of dudes in their late teens, early 20s, mid 20s who are very passionate about this music, and they have a lot of energy. They have a lot more energy than these older guys. And I say that with all due respect. I have no disrespect for my elders, trust me. But we have a lot more energy and we have a lot more time. So if you want to see this thing continue and if you want to see this keep on going, I highly recommend that you get out of our way. Rock and heavy metal is currently seeing a resurgence. It is seeing a resurgence in ticket sales. It is seeing a resurgence in streaming on streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. It's seeing a resurgence in popular culture. And that is only because of people like YUNGBLUD. That is only because of people like me. And without people like us, this genre dies completely. That is a cold, hard fact. So you tell me what you guys want. If you want to do funerals, you might as well do a funeral for the whole fucking genre. If you don't want to let us do what we're doing and get out of our way. If you want to see this thing continue, if you want to see this thing thrive, stop stepping on what we're trying to do. Because if you discourage us too much, I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to go do rap. It's a lot easier to go do pop. You want to talk about making money? It's a lot easier to make money there. And I would even go as far as to say that some of us are losing money because of our passion for rock and metal. Because it's not commercial like it used to be. The get-rich-quick scheme for Gen Z is not particularly rock and metal music. We can make a lot more money if we wanted to cash in. We can make a lot more money elsewhere. So I highly recommend, my friends, that you stop doing. I don't think my viewers do it. My viewers know what's up. You guys are some bad motherfuckers because you guys are here watching. You guys know the deal. I'm talking about these people in the comments, these nameless people who don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. They sit at their fucking keyboard and they type all day, bro. And they type with impunity. And they type with a sense that what they're saying actually matters. Like they type with a sense of entitlement and a sense that they have the right to say anything about anybody doing something in this space when you do nothing. That's the biggest thing I hate about the internet, and the fact that I have to be on the internet to do this shit is because I have to read people's stupid comments all day who think they have room to say anything. So yeah, I'm fired up. Yeah, I'm pissed off, but it's because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of being told that I don't know anything about music because I'm 26 years old. I know more about it than half of these motherfuckers. And so does YUNGBLUD. So maybe this touched a nerve. I told you guys I was going to come in and expose my bias from the beginning. But I got mad love for YUNGBLUD, and I appreciate the fact that somebody somewhere is doing something to keep this thing going, because I don't want to see this thing die.